Morning traders, Paul here with GammaEdge. Today is Monday, the 24th of July. Let's get started. Pause your players here. We want you to read to the very bottom. If you agree, hit your play button. Summary for today, short-term market model remains on a short-term pullback. This is appropriate for the 0DT and 1 to 3 day swing traders. The long-term market model, which is appropriate for folks who like to hold more of a position, remains in an uptrend. It's still continuation day up. But be aware that we are in this, what we consider a short-term pullback phase on a longer-term uptrend. The TLDR for today's summary, market's in neutral position. The 45.35, 45.40 remains very, very important today and for the balance of the week. We see this strike range as the transition range across multiple expiries, multiple days, the ways we slice the data. And when you see that, it becomes very, very important. The combo remains overall bullish with 4,600 still in the upside crosshairs. We think that's very, very real. Of course, 4,500 or 4,525, depending on how you look at it, is the downside target for the bears. In the PM complex, we separate out the PMs and the AMs because they behave very, very differently. Again, that 45-40, 35 transition area, we closed within it. We thought we would, we did, and this is just knowing what the crystal ball holds for the week ahead, I think allowed us to position Friday into where we are now. We are called Delta dominated above and below spot, which is bullish, but this is a snapshot in time. It does not indicate predictiveness, but it will take a bit to unravel it, or we will continue progress to the upside. So even though the bears are threatening and there is some saber rattling going on, the bulls are still firmly in control both in the PM complex and you'll see here in the AM complex. Plus X remains at 4,600. It's coincident with COI, which is the call open interest for the PM structure. Negative deltas at 4,600 make it a node. So if we do push north and we do see some targeting, it's going to take some pretty strong action on a short dated time frame to penetrate and move above 46. For this reason, we think 46 is the upside target. Combo complex, which is the AM and the PMs combined into one big mess. The transition 45.25, 45.20, slightly lower than everything else. We are above transition. We take this as slightly bullish. We like to be there. As I said earlier, we are called Delta dominated above and below, which is bullish. That Delta node that we talked about late last week, up at 46.05, remains in place, and we think this will limit upside progress above 4,600 unless it is neutralized through intraday action. Overnight parking potential are listed there. I'm not going to read them all out for you. 0DT, folks, a couple things to pay attention to. So we've already talked about the 45-40, 35 area. We closed Friday within transition. So this is a big deal. This is where we're starting the day. Note that plus GEX has dropped to 45.40 and that the 0DTE minus GEX has dropped to 4,500. Actually, this is bullish, and you may not think of it that way, but what it indicates is that we're getting the exposure of out-of-the-money calls above us, and in-the-money puts are being closed. So this is short-term. Bullish as transition drops. We like to see that immediately overhead. We'll just have to wait and see what happens here for today. Today is a net put dominated expiry. There is potential because of this for charm support if we remain above the 45.35. So that's an important consideration. This is our line in the sand. It's unambiguous and want everyone to pay attention to that. If we are above the 45.40, we should have in-the-money call deltas increasing. These will limit out at delta 1 and decaying out-of-the-money puts, even though they are going to zero, they are decaying in a positive or supportive way. We are removing negative puts from the complex, which is, from your perspective, it's adding deltas to the overall complex. If we move above about 45.80 or so, maybe 85, we see a potential to stall absent any targeting above this level. We're not anticipating moving up that high today, but if we do, we think we're going to stall out well before we get to the 4,600 strike. If we're below the 45.35, we will lose that in-the-money call dominance at 45.40. That's the plus GEX level. And we will gain in-the-money puts fairly rapidly, which will start pushing us down and become a weight on today's action. And if we lose 4,500, which we don't anticipate, but if we do, We could stall right underneath it at 44.95, and depending on what the intraday targeting points us towards, we may push as low as 44.65, although we think that is a remote chance. As always, Discord members, watch the VALU and the VAL-D commands. That's going to be very, very important to get a sense of the distribution of where everybody's focused. Market model, as I said, we've got this short-term pullback and a longer-term uptrend. We are on a continuation day. Just be aware that we're getting closer and closer to the top of what we call the ribbon. That's that colorful red, magenta, yellow, cyan ribbon below. When we get close to that, we would like to see a reversal, much like what we saw back on 7/17. Pause your player here and just look back to the left of the page there. The key takeaway for this is that obviously the bulls need to step up. I know we have news, everything this week. We don't care about the news per se. The bulls need to step up, and they need to continue the expansion of the out-of-the-money calls above us, and we need to see buying across the market, which is exactly what this model will tell us. Gamma levels we're watching, nothing overly remarkable from what we were looking at on Friday, so I won't belabor the point. Taking a look at the gamma levels in the PM complex, you can see below us, below that yellow line, we have green deltas. That's a good thing. So in the money call support below us to the north, we have out of the money call support also with a node sitting right up there at 4,600. I put the big red X right there. You can see that all things considered, transition is very tight. We are within transition, very well defined. There is no ambiguity here today. You know where the line in the sand is. 0 DTE, same transition, same well-defined structure, very, very good, very easy to read. You should have no trouble with this. Again, take a look at COI sitting up there at 4,600. We do have net negative gamma sitting up there. We also have net negative delta sitting up there for the 0 DTE. In the upper right-hand corner, you can see that the net GEX is minus 7,000 or so. That means we are put dominated on the expiry. As long as we remain above that 45.35, we should have positive charm flows, which will be supportive. If we lose that 45.35 and start dropping into that, not only do we lose the calls that are above us because they will continue to decay in a negative sense in charm flow, but below us we will start converting deltas from out of the money to in the money on those puts, and that will nail the coffin shut most likely for today. 1 DTE, same thing. 45.40, 45.35, unambiguous, very clear. You should have no trouble reading this. 45.50 is indicated up. I do want to call out the 45.50, 45.60 pair, very, very close in magnitude. I also want to call out the 70.75 pair, very close in magnitude. From below, these are going to be fairly important, but what I want you to do is I want you to pause, and I want you to start thinking through the if-thens, that if you're below it, if you're within that mess, and if you're above it, what happens to deltas, what happens to moneyness, and what happens to charm. If you can't answer those questions, then this data is not going to help you, and you need to get into the Discord and ask questions. To the low side, 4,500 is going to be very, very clear here. We think that is going to be supportive, and if it's not, then you can see the 45.85 would be a next area. Now, there is a node for the 1 DTE sitting down there at 45.95. This is a perfect sweep range. So don't be surprised if we try to get through 4,500 and then sweep down through 44.95. Where we are in the day is going to be vitally important to whether we close down there, because if we do have this downward pressure all day long and we effectively empower the bulls, or bears, excuse me, to more downside pressure, and we break through 4,500, we see that 44.95 as a natural area for us to potentially park at. Crystal ball, again, 45.40, 45.35, unambiguous, very clear. Again, these lines in the sand draw themselves when they are all superimposed on top of each other across multiple time scales and multiple slices. You need to pay attention. If you're not paying attention, you're missing out on how to apply gamma, delta, and charm to your trading methodologies. 4,600, very, very clear. You can see that mass from 45.40 all the way up through 45.75. I will note, if you take a look up in the upper right-hand corner, you see the net GEX is at minus 648 in total GEX exposure. This is within the noise margin of what we do here. So it is balanced. The fulcrum is right at the middle of the teeter-totter, and you're balanced on each side. We could tip either way. If we move north, you can see what's going to happen. If we move south, you can see what's going to happen also. The combo complex, 3X is indicated here. Those are nodes at the very, very top. 4665 is the JPM end of month, end of quarter September. It is not liquid, but it is present, and it is revealing and putting some influence on the markets already. The 4605 is a node that has been persisting. We talked about it last week. It will limit upside movement, most likely. But you can see right below it's the 4600 line, which is the dominant line in the combo complex. Again, this is the AMs and the PMs, over 17 million contracts here. It is the largest liquid vehicle in the market that is being traded right now. To the downside, 4475, very, very important. If you start slicing the data using our new web app, you will find actually that this is very, very important for Wednesday, where we have the FOMC minutes. So just be aware, we are slightly above transition. Its transition is 4520, 4525. This is slightly bullish. We have call dominance above us. We have call dominance below us. As a snapshot in time, this is a bullish picture. It will take time to unravel this if the bears are coming for us. So today is still net bullish, but you can see there are some things overhead to pay attention to, as well as some things underneath to pay attention to. Last graphic here. First of all, that big red arrow shows not that this is a put-dominated thing or anything like that. It's just that we've had a significant reduction in plus GEX at 4,600. Just be aware of that. That is the closing of calls, short-dated calls, which is driving that down. You can see the transition zone between 4475, 4500, and 4525, which is not labeled. It's that first green spike as you enter the mass. Has repaired itself. So we do have that 4525, again, not labeled, but very, very clear where it is pretty much indicating that if we can stay above that 4525, we should keep the bulls empowered and the bears at bay. Now, that being said, we are seeing the growth of the 4500 on the put side. We're also seeing the growth of the 4300, the 4200, and all the way on down to 4000. This is actually good because that will provide liquidity if we drop. We do not like to see all those numbers get smaller and smaller and smaller, because then it means the market is not worried about going down. A well-hedged market does not collapse. It will go down, but it does not collapse. So we are basically watching transition repair itself. We've got that real major line at 4475, which represents crossing the Rubicon. We will see a major change in sentiment if we drop below that, but we do think we'll get monetization with around that 4,500 level before we would push even lower in the overall structure. So that's it for today. If you are interested, come into GammaEdge.us. Go to that web page, upper right hand corner, pricing tab. Click on it, fill out the blanks. Come on in, 14-day free trial. All the tools turned on. New web app. It's open for everybody. We're allowing everybody to kick the tires and see what it's about. On Twitter, follow us at GammaEdges with an S. And on YouTube, two things. If you like today's commentary, give me a thumbs up. And two, subscribe. The thumbs up tells me that I'm providing content that you find useful, relevant, and actionable. So with that, I will bid you farewell. Make it a great Monday. Make it a great week. Don't get out over your ski tips. And we hope to see you in the Discord. Thanks, everyone.